This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan. Kadan Kadan is a new groupage app that allows you to share space within a shipping container so that you can save costs when it comes to your logistics and transportation. Visit kadankadan.com to learn more or visit the Instagram page Kadan Kadan Official. Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone from wherever you're listening. This is Melobi from the Kadan Kadan podcast. And today I have a very special guest in the agribusiness space, a young one as well, making a lot of impact and change. And I see her doing a lot of interesting stuff on LinkedIn. So really keen to hear what Chidinma has to say about her journey into agribusiness. But first of all, welcome to the podcast, Chidinma. So how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you very much. I trust you are also good likewise.
Yes, I'm doing very, very well. Thank you. Okay, so one thing I like to do in this podcast is, I sometimes I try to introduce people on their behalf, but I think it's much, much better when people introduce themselves. So can you tell me a bit about yourself? What do you do? What takes up your time? What's your business, etc.? What are you involved in? We'd love to know.
Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you're listening to. My name is Ezeh Chidinma Ezeh. I am a vegetable farmer in Nigeria. In essence, that is basically what I do. But on a broader shed now, I am the team leader of FarmCast, and FarmCast is a technology-enabled agricultural, human resource, and capacity building firm. So in essence, we are an HR firm for agri, employing staffs for farmers and agricultural firms, such that we help them improve their productivity. So we screen those workers, we train them, and we also manage them for the farmers and the agricultural firms they do. And I am also the programs and membership officer for YPAD Nigeria, where we engaged young agricultural minds on various projects, various opportunities, various programs that they can tap into and within the agricultural space. And I'm also a vegetable trainer and consultant, basically working with Scale Nigeria as the village savings and loan coordinator, engaging women in agriculture when it comes to finance management and basic operations. So I think I'll just stop there. Thank you very much.
Wow! You're wearing a lot of hats, and I'm very curious and keen to unpack all of those. So, one thing that you mentioned is the company that you work with, FarmCast. I'm curious to know, what led you into that role. I mean, how did you end up working with FarmCast?
Okay, so backstory now. I studied agricultural economics and extension services here in Nigeria, and when I was done, I started production of veggies basically within my locality because I noticed that veggies were not much. So I worked with an organization in producing vegetables, and then we have local farmers around us that we also train on modern production method, because we noticed that one of the challenges with vegetable production is there is a lot of wastes even before harvest. So we adopted several modern means of producing vegetables, for instance, like staking, the use of drip irrigation tape, the use of mulch frames. So along the line, one of the challenge that I noticed within my locality, I stay in Southwest Nigeria, and for us, should I use the word, we are quite relatively new to agriculture when it comes to vegetable production. Most of the veggies that we get before now comes from the north. So, and then the work of laborers, staffs for agriculture comes from the north. So down south here, it was a very big challenge, especially breaking even in business, because the those within our localities charge more. So we most times we bring workers from the north, sometimes from the neighboring countries, as far as Cotonou, as far as Benin Republic and the likes of Cameroon sometimes. times. So one thing was always constant with these people, especially people within our people that will bring in around Nigeria, is that the apps come from farm. So there's usually an agreement from wherever agents you get them with. They stay with you for 1 year, and then they go after 1 year, and then you pay them monthly. So most times you notice that after they receive their first month payment or their second month payment, they leave farm. And for production, especially when it comes to veggie, it is very, very detrimental, because we are in the middle of production already. So getting someone to replace them in a very short time is quite difficult. And there are things on farm that needs to be attended to. On the long run, just notice that there's always wastage or loss of resources at the end of the whole day. So I started FarmCast. I also experienced this personally. So I started FarmCast as an HR firm that solves this challenge for farmers in trying to manage workers, manage staff for farmers, and ensure that there's a continuous production on farm, and also ensure that wherever we work with, because one of the challenges we also notice is that most of these workers don't have the experience or that farmers need. So we also run trainings for them and then manage them for farmers. All in all, to ensure there's a continuous production and improve productivity of their output. Thank you.
Okay. So wow, this is getting more interesting every time you speak. So you started Farmcast. So it's
Yes, I started.
okay. Do you have a co-founder? Do you have like a team that you started with?
So yeah, I started initially, I started alone, but over the years, so officially we started this year, early this year in for the HR firm, but previously we do more of capacity building, consultation and training. So when we started the HR firm, there was a need for us to obviously expand. So we have a couple of people on our team at the moment, those in charge of field, those in charge of socials, and of course the programs that we run.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, and then you also mentioned that like you sometimes get people from neighboring countries like
Yeah.
Cameroon, Benin. So how do you find these people? I mean, to
Okay,
to
so
go, yeah.
okay, so the truth of the matter is it's been quite challenging, especially getting from neighboring countries. So one of the things that have helped me so far is that I've had opportunity to work with a lot of farm ants, a lot of farmers, and since most of them are from this neighboring country, I get to interact with them and see where or opportunities where they can also help in bringing people that are interested in such opportunities and such offers. So mostly it has been that, and we also try to establish one or two network outside the country that we know that are also into agricultural opportunities or agricultural trainings within those locations, such that we work together and see how we can share our resources and then help each other basically.
Right. And you also mentioned that like people tend to abscond from the farms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting that like you're in Nigeria and you have to go to another country. So what's going on here really? Like why can't we just hire our own people?
Okay, so for us in Nigeria, so people that abscond are usually not those from the other countries. They are usually people within Nigeria contents now, and they abscond due to several reasons. One of them, so when we started, we also tried to understand the perspective of the workers. Why do they have to abscond due to some reason? Is it due to improper payment plan or method? Is it due to poor management? To also try to understand them critically and understand. So for various people, there are a lot of reasons why they do so. Well, for some people, it's poaching. So there are some farmers that actually push workers from a particular farm to another farm or within the location. So it happens a lot. And then some people, it's just better opportunities. This saw better opportunity when they came to that particular area, and then they also left to work. So quite a lot of reasons why they do so.
Okay, and would you say that there's a kind of lack or deficit of skilled farm hands in Nigeria?
No, when it comes to skilled farm hands, there are lots of agricultural graduates. There are a lot of people with vast experience when there are even a lot of trainings that are ongoing to equip young people when it comes to these skills that are needed for specific operation. So when it comes to skilled workers, right, Nigerians are not deficient. But when it comes to the unskilled ones, it's quite difficult to walk by and then go around it basically. And then the unskilled one, if I would say, runs the majority of the work on farm because Nigeria, as other West African countries or even African countries general, largely depends on human resource for agricultural production. So we are not that mechanized when it comes to operation because of the fragmentation of land. A lot of people don't do large scale production. So a lot of these are some of the reasons why our agriculture is largely dependent on manpower.
Okay, okay, very interesting. Okay, now let's move on to the vegetable farming, right? You are a vegetable farmer consultant. You've been doing it for quite a while, right? So I want to get a little bit technical. You mentioned something about drip irrigation. You mentioned about mud frames. Can you explain what those things are?
For drip irrigation is basically a system that supplies water or drops water to the root of the plants, that the specific root of the plant. So for irrigation, there are various means of irrigation. There is furrow irrigation, there is sprinkler, where water is sprinkled on the leaves of the farm. But drip irrigation is specific such that it looks more like a pipe. It looks more like a pipe that has been calibrated at specific openings. So that calibration point is where water drops at the root of the plant, and it's more efficient when it comes to disease control. Because now the more water touch your plants, your leaves, and all, it gives room for more disease to spread. And then when it comes to also managing water, especially in scarce area, deep irrigation is effective because the root of the plant have access to the adequate amount of water it needs at that specific time. So basically that is what drip irrigation is. And for mulch frame serves, should I use the word nylon or polythene bag that you lay? So mulch basically is laid on bed. So there are various type of mulch. There is the organic mulch, the ones that you get use plants or debris to mulch your farm, and that's basically creating a cooler atmosphere around your farm, prevents weed from growing and thereabouts. So mulch frame here basically is a polythene nylon. So polythene nylon, and then recently there's a biodegradable mulch frame that is made from plants waste and all, that is being laid on most times ridges that you've made to plant your crops on, just to prevent create a barricade between the soil and the plant, and also ensure that weed control is done. There is reduction when it comes to evaporation of water from the soil to the atmosphere, and also sometimes depending on the mushroom use in controlling pests on the farm. So basically, yes, this is what drip irrigation and mushroom stands for.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for that. Because we're gonna have people that are at different levels of understanding of this business. So I also want to talk about something you brought up very briefly, which is the wastage, pre-harvest, post-harvest, etc. So from your perspective, from your experience, where do you think most of the wastage occurs?
From Nigeria context now, most of our waste actually occurs from now 50% occurs after production, right? But to some extent, poor agronomic practices lead to post-harvest losses. So there are instances where standards are not met, right? And the quality products are not out there. And when quality products are harvested, unquality products are harvested, by the time it gets to the market, it's spoiled already. So bulk of the waste from agricultural production actually is a post-harvesting. Now, using Nigerian context, a lot of things can go wrong: bad road, bad market system, or poor market system, if I use the word, poor transportation system, poor packaging system, and then when it comes to farm, even poor harvesting. So not harvesting properly as you ought to might give injury or damage to some of the plants or crops or produce that you're taking to the market, and then it gives room for more disease to start working on those produce before they get to the farm, or poor handling also. So all of these things constitute to gives room for more wastage when it comes to post-harvest or agricultural produce, then especially for storage. And now storage for vegetables is quite critical because we know that vegetables are perishable goods, so basically they deteriorate on time. So if you don't get the right storage that you need for them, they spoil faster than they ought to. So all of this actually gives room for more wastage when it comes to agriculture and agricultural produce.
Okay, okay, right. So I'm gonna push back a little bit, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So I remember speaking to a lady in the market, right, and she was selling tomatoes, apples, the usual stuff, grapes. And obviously we're importing a lot of the apples and grapes. And my friend and a couple of other colleagues were looking at providing some sort of cold storage for these women in the markets. And she told us that, she needs the cold storage more for stuff like apples and grapes, but she doesn't need it for the tomatoes because she can afford to maybe lose the tomatoes and the money is not that much lost compared to like the apples and grapes and stuff. So is that something that you would agree with, or do you think that all vegetables actually need some sort of cold storage?
All vegetables actually need some sort of cold storage. So I think for it's more of opportunity costs. Which one is she ready to forego compared to the others? And then now, I really don't understand the agricultural climes of your environment. But looking at our environment, for instance, apple grapes does not grow everywhere in this country. If I'm to be more specific, it grows in maybe a particular. So we have 36 states in Nigeria. It grows in a particular state, one or two particular states in the whole country, and the production is not large compared to tomatoes that is cultivated in more than 15 states of the federation. So of course, if I'm an apple seller and I also sell tomatoes, and someone is bringing up an opportunity for me to have a cold storage, I'll definitely prefer to store my apples that I know, of course, obviously, for the fact that not everybody's producing it. Of course, the cost, there will be, the cost will be more compared to the tomatoes. And also, yes, I think it's an opportunity cost thing for her than which deteriorates faster or which perish faster than the other.
Well said, well said, and I actually agree with that. Okay, okay, very interesting. So, I asked this question to another lady who also is in agricultural space. She said, I asked her, what is really stopping Nigeria from really being self-sufficient in agriculture? What are the sort of real bottlenecks? Was it security? Is it fertilizer? Like, for you, if you had to pick three things that you think would increase the productivity of agriculture in Nigeria across the country, what would those three things be?
Number one, insecurity. Number two, bad roads. I would definitely use bad roads. Then number three, I would say access to a lot of inputs that you need. So now, buttressing on each of these points, number one is insecurity. Like I mentioned, the northern part of Nigeria produce the bulk of what we eat. But in recent years, there's been a lot of insecurity, bandits, farmers, elders clash, bandits, and all. And a lot of this revolves around this area. And a lot of farmers have abandoned their farm. A lot of farmers sold their farm, those that couldn't, some even planted, they couldn't harvest. So all of these things resulted to the whole inflation, especially when it comes to food, the whole hike in price of food, and also definitely any government that is able to solve this insecurity would definitely give room for what's it called, for a more secured food system. And the second thing I'll talk about is bad roads, bad road network from farm to the market, right? It's not enough for farmers or to sensitize farmers to go to farm to produce. It's not enough to train farmers on how to produce this. If they produce and it takes them a week to get their produce from wherever it is to the nearest location due to bad road, by the time you get to that location, because of the network of things, maybe it might go to another location because we move goods across states. So by the time it gets to the end users, right, most of them are actually wasted already. So bad roads network that links farm to the markets, states to states, and across the nation is actually a very big challenge for most farmers. And this also gives room for an increase in the cost of transporting these goods from one location to the another, because most logistic firms, most drivers want to charge more, because if they pass through that specific road that is available or quite good, their cars get damaged over and over. So they need to repair, they need to fix, they stay longer on the way. We've had farmers that had to stay on the road for over a week at a particular spot because of bad roads. And then the goods spoiled,
Oh,
trailer,
wow.
truck loads of goods and all. So all of these things give room to food inflation in the country. And then the third thing I would like to buttress on is access to input, a lot of inputs that are needed for agricultural production, right? So it's quite strange or annoying that in Nigeria, for instance, when it comes to the vegetable sector, close to 80% of the inputs, if I'm rightly correct, are not produced in this country. From seeds to fertilizer to a lot of agro inputs that are used. So so most times when there are issues, so the more dollar rise, for instance, the more the cost of these things goes up for our nation. And then there are times that they are not available due to one reason or the other. So if these things are not easily accessible, if they are not readily available every time that we need to plant, that's an headache for farmers. And then obviously so that's why, so there are sometimes you just notice that a particular seeds, for instance, is not available, and then the price of that produce automatically goes up in the market, because of course farmers are unable to provide or produce this thing. So I think basically those three key areas are top for me when it comes to reducing food inflation and improving food.
Okay, okay. From those three that you mentioned, right? The insecurity. I mean, it's only for me, only the government can really solve that. Although maybe there are ways the private sector could come in. Roads as well. A lot of the roads are, the government, state government, federal government. But I think that the input side of it, right, could be a place where private sector players can come in. So I just want to unpack those inputs for a little bit. One of them is the seeds, right? Now, I'm just looking at it from a very simplistic point of view, right? Surely, can't we have farmers that just grow seeds for specific crops? Like you have people that have orchards and all these kind of things for different crops. Why don't we have more of those?
Okay, so for better yield, right? There's what we call improved seed or hybrid seed. So for instance, if I buy tomatoes in the market and I bring out the seed, dry them and replant them, disease that was in the tomatoes that I bought. So for instance, if there was any disease attack on the farm, if there was any resistance that's grown through over time, once I plant that seed, that disease will definitely appear in that seed. So if I replant it again, it's more like I'm multiplying it. So there's what we call hybrid seed. So hybrid seed are pure seed, 99.8 or 99.9% pure, free from all of this disease and all. So that's why for vegetables, like I mentioned, most of the, so there, it's not like there are no local vegetables. There are, but when it comes to the yield they give you, especially for commercial purpose, it's not profitable compared to using this hybrid seed. So the volume it gives you, and also when it comes to the shelf life of your plants. So for instance, if I plant local tomatoes and I plant hybrid tomatoes can, with proper management and all, can stay 2, 3, 4 weeks without deteriorating. Might start shrinking, for instance, but before you even see sign of it deteriorating, most times your third week, right? But for local tomatoes, I dare not keep it in my house for 3 days. So all of these are the pros and cons when it comes to the seedling. So it's not one thing that a farmer can easily say they want to breed. And so, and also when it comes to breeding with research institutes and all, um I know that most of our research institutes are also trying to work more on this, but we've not, should I say, used the word, have significant progress when it comes to this. One germane reason is because of the weather condition that is needed to produce this seed ahead. There's a need for a specific weather condition and all. And so when you, from business angle now, because now when it comes to Nigeria, climbs and all, technically provides everything for yourself, and then that includes electricity. So some of these, when it comes to breeding seeds, have to be run on electricity 24/7, and then with the current cost of diesel fuel in the country, and then by the time it comes out and then you have to sell it in the market, because again you have to consider profitability if you are going into seed breeding and all. The price at the end of the day is not what farmers will be willing to buy and then produce all of this things. So there is quite a complex web when it comes to seed, like you mentioned. So, and then of course other inputs too that we can't really go into details at the moment. Thank you.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much for your insightful information. I think it gives people a much deeper understanding of why food prices are going up. It's good for the average person to really know what's going on. So your name is Chidinma, so I'm assuming you're Igbo, right? What part of Nigeria do you do your vegetable farming? Are you in the southeast, southwest? Where part of Nigeria?
Okay, so I'm Igbo from the southeast of part of Nigeria, but my farm and basically my farm operation is around southwestern Nigeria. So I stay in the southwest part of the country.
Okay, and so can you just give people in the Southwest, some inspiration by telling them what can they plant that will make them a lot of money? A lot of people want to just make money in this economy. So can you give them some like things that you've tried that you make money usually, so that people can get, some inspiration here?
Okay, so one thing that we tell people that want to come into the agricultural space, especially young people, we know that young people don't have access to huge capital, and agriculture is capital intensive, right? So when people we tell them not to try, is not to try production. If you want to come into agriculture, don't try production. First you can try marketing that produce that you think you have passion for, that you want to grow, or you see a need for in your environment. Try getting this produce from farmers around you, and then start marketing them to your customers, to your clients. Get feedback from them, right? So whatever feedback they give you tells you what you need to start putting in place if you want to go into your production. But basically, for easier to make money now, in essence, marketing is the best place when it comes to agriculture. Market produce from one location to the another. There are for Nigeria, for instance, there are specific locations or specific states that are known for large production of a particular produce, and there are some states that don't have it that also want them in high demand. So why not get it from one location and then deliver it to the other location and then make your money in between the whole process? So marketing is actually a very huge gap that youths can start leveraging into, and then look into that. Then another thing I would mention is a training, facilitated training. So there, especially when it comes to passing knowledge, especially to the older generation. So there is the older generation are the bulk of farmers in Nigeria. And then if we want to improve our food, we also need not to just gain the knowledge for ourselves, we need to pass this training to them. And of course, it might take time, because again, this is what they've been doing over time. So impacting them might be quite difficult, them adopting the new technology and innovation that you are bringing in. But of course, if you give them a demo, this is do your own here, let me do my own here, and then you show them, obviously you buy their trust, especially when your produce come out, where you buy their trust 100%. So when it comes to inputs, you can also start providing input for them in whatever locality they are. Buy input, sell to them, and then also charge them a few tokens for training them. And then of course, when this produce come out again, like I mentioned, you must have killed yourself in marketing. Get this produce and then supply it to your clients or your customers wherever they are. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this has been a great conversation, and I like that we've kind of gone full circle, and landed on the youth, and getting them excited about agriculture. And I find it really interesting that you didn't mention go into production. You're actually saying, okay, start off with marketing, you can make some money there. There's actually a gap in the marketing space. Training people, training the older generation. These are actually nice ways for younger people to get their feet wet and try getting into this business. So the final question I'll ask you, before we kind of round things up, is we speak about young people and agriculture. What do you think really works in getting them into agriculture?
Okay, all right. So for young people, especially now looking at our recent economic and all, young people want to make money fast. And so once you want to get them into agriculture, ensure you bring them in on something that they can earn fast. And so that's why for us we work with vegetables. Vegetable is a very short life crop. Within 3 months, 4 months, you're harvesting already and then making your money, unlike going for a perennial crop or cash crop that takes a longer while for you to even know if your result is going to yield or not. So and then also for young people also want to, in quotes, show swag. They don't want to be identified with something that is not working. So if agriculture is not working, they would not want to identify with agriculture. So one, we have to make agriculture work, and we also have to ensure that as it is working, it is also attractive to them. So we are not painting the whole dirty agriculture thing, and that is why I actually love soilless farming. For instance, when you do soilless farming, you are practically producing food for the nation or food for your locality, as the case may be, in an hygienic environment. You are not using oil, you're not using cutlass, you're not, of course, young people are very much uh welcomed into or they adopt this particular means of production easily compared to every other means. And of course, when it comes to, again, in bringing in innovations, bringing in technology, tractor, drones, these are what young people want to be identified and known for. So I think basically two things for me, right? Ensure that if you want to young people to come to agriculture, ensure that it is innovative, it is creative for them too, and then let's ensure that agriculture also works. If I come to a particular thing because it is innovative and for me it's not working, it's not yielding profit for me, it's not giving me what I need, and then I see my mates working or my colleagues or my peers working in other sector, obviously I want to go to the other sector. So I think these are the things that we need to put in place to ensure that young people come or adopt agriculture basically. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Chidinma, this has been great. I'd love to hear what do you have for the future. So, I know you do the youth empowerment, you do the farming, the consulting, the farmcast. What's in the future for you? What do you have planned for the future?
So, for me, basically, I want to learn more. I want to explore more, not just Nigeria agriculture, as far as Africa and across the world. So, basically, I look forward to learning more, gaining extra degrees, gaining extra skills, and see ways that we can improve our food system and also empower or improve agribusiness across Nigeria and Africa, and see what best we can bring on board to ensure that we are not where we are at the moment. We keep increasing and then we keep improving basically. So yes, for me, it's more learning and then more giving myself out to my community, to my environment, to people around me.
Amazing, amazing. I hear growth, 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 learning, learning, learning. Amazing. Okay, so Chidinma, can you give us some socials? How can people reach out to you if they want to work with you, consulting, or whatever capacity? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Okay, so on my Twitter, I am Chidinma Ezeh, or you could just search for Chi.Africa. On LinkedIn and Facebook, I'm Chidinma Ezeh, and then on my IG, I am Chidinma Ezeh, or you can also search for Chi Africa. Yeah, you should be able to find me out. Or you could just check the hashtag Chi Africa. That's
Okay,
Chi with the African logo, yeah. So once you check for that hashtag, you see all of my handles there.
amazing, amazing. That makes it because I was gonna say for the non Nigerian, the Chidinma is a Chidinma Ezeh. So yeah, I hope that helps. All right. So thank you so much, Chidinma. It's been amazing speaking to you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I wish you the best of luck with your future endeavors. And
Thank you
hopefully
very
we can
much.
do some more work together in the future.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on board. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
This podcast is sponsored by Kadan Kadan.